With the Iowa Lottery's new Millionaire for Life game, you could win $1 million a year for life. That could make you my dream job is no job millionaire. Front row tickets to every show millionaire. Hire a personal glam squad for you and your bestie millionaire.
Yep, a little further.
Or just to never run out of your favorite pickles millionaire. With Millionaire for Life from the Iowa Lottery,
And these.
you can change your life for life. Play today.
The biggest party of the year is here. Zach Brown Band Love and Fear Tour, presented by Margaritaville at Sea. Friday, November 20th, Casey Center. Zach Brown Band with special guest Grace Potter. Tickets are on sale now at ZachBrownBand.com.
And a little bit of chicken fried.
Don't miss Zach Brown Band Love and Fear live.
Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, the two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. Game Day Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners, best enjoyed with an easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, Sweet 16 fans, Iowans everywhere. Scott Dochterman of The Athletic, Chad over there, Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register right here. Scott, this is our first ever Sweet 16 edition of Legends and Listeners, presented by Game Day Men's Health. Hopefully it's not our last one of these ever, but given the recent history, if it takes another 27 years, I'll be 79, but still actively going to Game Day Men's Health, of course. But the Channel Seed Studios are, for me, in a downtown Houston hotel, getting ready for Iowa media availability on this Wednesday morning. Scott Dochterman, you are back in Iowa, but man, we've got a fun, giddy, new kind of show. I mean, just think about 1 year ago what we were talking about. I mean, with Iowa basketball. Wow, what a change.
Yeah, I mean, the changes are as dramatic as they get. And this is what everybody has been missing in 27 years. I mean, Y2K, happened after the last Sweet 16. And that's what ultimately cost Fran his job. That's what Steve Alford never could get to. And you forget just how exciting it can be when you get past that first weekend. And the way Iowa did it, no offense to what took place in '99, that was great. But for I lose my train of thought with Aiden saying he wasn't even born yet. So now.
All right. So 1999 was great, but
that was a 5-4 game, right? When they beat Arkansas. Granted, great coach, good team. They had a lot of success in that era, but Iowa just beat the national champions, who was a number 1 overall seed, with a last-second shot, and it goes down as one of the greats. Chad, I mean, we've been around for this, chronicling it, growing up in it. Where do you fit this in? I mean, I put it in the top 3, but I want to hear what you have to say about this shot by Alvaro Figueras.
With 4.5 seconds to go. Aiden, do you want to play the clip first, and then we'll get into that? Does that feel good?
Full court pressure. Koch gets it into Skirts to Al Figueras for 3 in the lead. Good with 3.9 to go. Here comes Lee across the timeline. Drives around his man, in for the basket. No. Game's over. Game's over. Lee drove all the way down the floor, and they tried a wraparound pass. I thought he could have had the layup. Tried to wraparound pass to a cutting Thomas Houck in the lane, and back the hearse up to the Florida driveway. The number 1 seed has been upset by the Iowa Hawkeyes. 73-72.
Back the Hearst up. I hadn't heard that. Way to go, Dolph. That's a good one. Yeah, you could even hear in the background just kind of almost like the screaming shock of what had just happened, and what makes it more even dynamic or the is just that it was in basically a road arena. I mean, Tyler Tashman, who was down there for the game for us on our podcast, said it wasn't quite Mackey Arena, but it was like Breslin. He said it was loud. It was loud down there in Tampa, and Iowa basically won a road game against a top seed to do it. So where does this rank? Alvaro Falgueras hits the corner three. There's no question that it's one of the three biggest shots in Iowa basketball history, in my mind. One of my very first Iowa basketball memories as a kid was the Steve Waite shot against Georgetown, 78-7. I'm sorry, what was the score? It was the final was 81-80, right? What was the final? Okay. Yeah, so they were down 80-79. Okay, down 80-79. He goes in or 80-78, 3-point play, right?
No, I think it was tied. This is going to look bad.
Okay, I'm sorry to botch this. Anyway, game-winning shot for Steve Waite. One of my first memories. See, it's a fuzzy memory, as you can tell, because I was 6 years old. And then, of course, I relived this in my driveway too as a kid in 1987 when I was 13 years old, and was Kevin Gamble's 3-point shot with 2 seconds left to beat Oklahoma in the Sweet 16. And then I will never forget 2 days later as a kid going out to the driveway for about 2 hours after Iowa blew the lead to UNLV just in frustration. But that memory, that Gamble shot was like they were down 1, he hits the 3, and now this. So obviously different stakes for each. Waite sent him to the Final Four. Gamble sent him to the Elite Eight. Falgueras to the Sweet 16. But man, it's the euphoria, I think, for Iowa fans is very comparable for those that can remember it because of what this drought was. I would still probably rank Gamble just because I remember it more vividly. I know the Waite shot was big, but I think you're right. It was tied, and it was tied 78-78. Yeah. He scored, got the foul, made the free throw. They came down and scored, and then that was it. I'm remembering it. I'm remembering it now. So anyway, so I'm going to go Gamble 1, and then, other tie for 2.
Yeah, I was going to say people are probably now, ready to shoot us through the.
I know.
You guys can't remember. I remembered I was there yesterday.
Yeah, I was 6. So
same. We're the same age. So I'll say this. I mean, my 3 are the 3 in importance. Because going to the Final Four is more important than going to the Sweet 16 or going to the Elite Eight. But they've all got a level of drama. They're all equally important as far as what they meant at that moment. And, Steve Waite's 3-point play. And back then there wasn't a 3-point shot. There was with Kevin Gamble. And then, of course, there was with Alvaro Falgueras. And, I still maintain that the best Iowa team in the 2 major sports, men's basketball and football, was the 87 Hawkeyes basketball team. They were better than the 80 version that went to the Final Four. I mean, they had one great player and a collection, and it's kind of like this team in some respects. With Bennett Sturtz, who hasn't necessarily been great in this tournament, but he's been, good enough and engineer victory, and the players around him have responded. And so there is some elements to this that is comparable to 80 in that. And, and they had to go win it in Philadelphia against Syracuse and Georgetown, which is really close to those 2 campuses. And you look at Iowa happened to go to Tampa against the defending national champs and beat them, in the swamp area of Tampa. And that's the equivalent of beating Iowa in Des Moines. I mean, that's really what it is. So for Iowa to make that happen, I mean, all the power to them. And again, you mentioned it at the top, Chad. Remember where we were a year ago at this time, and that was, Fran had been let go. Ben was McCollum was just coming off the tarmac and going to make sure he had one last meeting with the Drake AD for a couple of hours after Drake got back, and nothing had really started. There were no conversations with Beth until late that afternoon. They didn't do it in the morning or anything. He gave Brian Harden the opportunity, and then here we are a year later, and the basketball savant has Iowa talking they're in a direction now where it's all gravy, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. As we record this late Tuesday night, it has been exactly 1 year since Ben McCollum was hired. So it's literally a year of difference. And so year 2 of Ben McCollum technically starts right now with this Sweet 16 game against Nebraska. We'll get to the Nebraska matchup a little later, but just a little bit more on the victory itself, which is we haven't had a show since they beat Clemson either, right? I'm pretty sure. No. So, I mean, first of all, that was Iowa's first. I know maybe it's not a big deal, but that was Iowa's first NCAA tournament win over a power conference team since 1999, since Arkansas in 1999. Yeah. Alford beat the MVC's Creighton at the time. Fran, that was his only NCAA tournament win. Fran had 4 wins against, in order, Davidson, Temple, Cincinnati, which was not yet with the Big 12, and then, of course, Grand Canyon. So, I mean, I felt like that meant something.
Cincy's weird because they were in the Big East, which was, and then it morphed in the American. Yeah. So it kind of, but anyway, as of at that moment, it was not really considered. The Big East had split off. It wasn't in the Big East, and the American had not risen, and still hasn't risen. So
anyway, but so just kind of, that was a big deal to get that NCAA tournament win. And, it certainly wasn't super pretty. And, I mean, honestly, the Florida game wasn't like Iowa went out and hit 13 threes. Mm-hmm. Bennett Sturts was 0 for 9 from 3. Yeah. Iowa missed a ton of free throws, like a ton of 1-and-1s. I think 4 1-and-1s they missed in that game, and still found a way to come out with the victory. And it's, it seems like it's been the toughness. Ben McCollum also had kind of the comment that at 2 or 3 in the morning the night before, it kind of adds to his aura, like he found something on the film, and then they installed it that morning, and then hey, I got it, kind of like a detective, he cracked the case or whatever, like this is what we're going to do. And I have to believe a lot of that had to do with getting Tavion Banks looks at the rim. Iowa ends up outscoring Florida in the paint. Just a really incredible, tough against a tall team, resilient effort. You compared it to somebody coming to Iowa or Des Moines to beat Iowa. Imagine if Iowa State was a 1 seed in Des Moines and they got beat by a 9. That's what this was. And it is kind of stunning to think about. And now they have to turn around and play a game, 3.5 days later.
Yeah, the staying power for these moments is they're fleeting, but that's okay, because sometimes you want to get going. Football, you have some lulls, and I think in basketball you don't. And but the one thing that I think that is palpable, and we experienced it with women's basketball 2 and 3 years ago, Chad, and we are now in men's basketball, is there's nothing like March Madness. There's nothing like the excitement. I mean, the sport of football is bigger as an entity, and the games are bigger, and the bowl, the certainly part of the CFP is bigger in totality. But the individual moments, the March Madness, the way it kind of flows is different, and it's just so invigorating. And just to see, I was writing a story today at Panera Bread, and there was, 2 older people, and I could overhear them talking, and it drove me crazy because this guy's like, "Yep, they played Nebraska on Friday night," and I'm sitting there going, "It's Thursday." But I'm like, I'm not going to interrupt their conversation or anything, Chad. But I thought that was but the cadence makes it so memorable. But I think. This is something that a whole generation of Iowa fans have missed out on. Why there was apathy. Why there was always we're never, ever going to let this happen again. It's just, and that's why they had to move on from Fran. Fans quit buying in. You need faith, you need hope, you need excitement. And Ben McCollum in 1 year, because let's face it, this team doesn't have anywhere near the talent that Fran's team in 21 had. When you have Luka Garza, the Murray brothers, Jordan Bohannon, and Wieskamp. I mean, you're talking about a pretty full lineup. Connor McCaffrey was really good. So I think when you throw all those in there, and yet this team is as resilient as it is, there is a lot of similarities to the '80s squad, where it was Ronnie Lester and a bunch of guys, and man, those bunch of guys have really come through.
Yeah, when you were talking about the women's game, I mean, I was at the South Carolina game when Iowa beat them. Equally, the spread was comparable. Iowa women were 11.5-point underdogs against South Carolina. Hawkeyes were 10.5-point underdogs against the Gators the other day. But there's a photo from the women's game of Caitlin Clark going up to the crowd. You remember that after the game, where it's like kind of exulting, and all the fans are just going like, you can look in the crowd and see all those faces that are like, oh my God, like all that stuff. That was what we saw with that Fulgaris photo from Stephen Malley of the University of Iowa. Just an unbelievable shot. Aiden's got it up right there. It is, it's him holding the pose. If you're listening on the podcast or on the audio, and just there's amazed reporters like, oh my God. Like there's it's right in front of the Hawkeye fans, and they're all just doing different stuff. And like one guy's looking at his phone.
I know.
Knitting. That's what somebody was knitting a sweater.
Yeah.
But look at that. I mean, Aiden's kind of scrolling through it right now if you can't see it. But just like amazement, of what just happened. Like, oh my God. Like, I watched and I kind of believed, but wow, that just happened. And it really was that type of moment, Scott. And I talked about this on, I think it was one of our podcasts, but I think it's worth repeating here, that what a play that was. What a play drawn up to get that kind of shot with, you got to go the full length of the court in 8.9 seconds. And there's so many little things about that play that were amazing to me. Obviously, Tate Sage is set up down by the free throw line at the close end of the court to set a screen for Bennett Sturts, who really didn't need the screen. It wasn't like a hard screen or anything. What stood out to me that I haven't even pointed out on Twitter yet, but how fast Bennett Sturts ran to get open. It's like a wide receiver getting off the ball, off, and you get off the ball and you beat your man on the coverage. You got to step. Yeah. Cooper Koch is the quarterback, hits him. It had to be a perfect pass. He ran the baseline too perfectly because he had a guy on him inbound, so he had to run to his right and make the perfect pass, almost like a quarterback escaping pressure and making a throw so that his guy can run with it, catch and run, right? And then I think the most Iowa thing about this team, Scott, is Bennett Sturts, the NBA, soon-to-be NBA player, the clear star of this team, first team All Big Ten, the go-to guy all year, had Ben McCollum in the huddle call the shot for him. He gave him the shot. He wanted him to take the shot. He dribbles up court, and instead of taking the shot with 8 seconds left in his college basketball career potentially, the star player gives it up. Mm-hmm. And that's what Sturts is. He's a selfless player. He gives up he says, okay, you take the shot. Excuse me. Yeah. And Fulgaris hits it. Hits it. And I thought that was just an amazing moment for Sturts, for this team. It's been an unselfish team all year, led by Sturts. And for a guy like Fulgaris, who you've been ragging on, Scott.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring it up.
He did it. He hit the credit to him. He has shown up in this tournament.
Right. I've been probably the most critical in media of Fulgaris, and I don't feel like I've been out of place either. I think that he's been inconsistent all year long, and they expected more. But in the biggest moment of the season, he came up with the biggest shot, one that we will remember forever. It doesn't mean that he didn't do all that. It's like, again, if you want to equate it with baseball, it's like thinking you're going to get a 300 hitter and he's hitting 230 all year, but he hits a home run in the ninth inning to take you to the championship series. It's the same thing. You got to, he's Aaron Boone, Bucky Bleepin' Dent. He's that kind of guy. But it's an iconic moment, and you got to embrace it when it happens. But a couple other things that really I want to point out in that game, Chad, was Florida was very physical, and Iowa was as tough as it came. It was equally physical. It did not back down, and it did it with toughness. And the team isn't nearly as big as Florida. I mean, Florida is, big dudes, but it didn't back down. It was every bit as physical. It was in their face when they needed to be, like Cooper Koch doing the Gator chomp in their faces after winning. I'm fine with it. Show some swag. And I think that the one thing with that is that, this would not have happened before because Iowa could play defense. Granted, their field goal defensive percentage is not very good, but they play hard on each and every possession. They make their most energy on defense. And so when they frustrate opponents, they make mistakes, they turn them into points, and they keep playing over and over and over again. Fran McCaffrey is a brilliant offensive tactician and did a phenomenal job with that. That's why he got penned to the postseason to begin with. So I'll give him his respect there. But this team would not have advanced with Fran as a coach because the emphasis on defense. They flipped the script. They were, for 7 years, they were either first or second in the Big Ten in offense, and for the last 8 out of the last 9 years, they were either second to last or last in defense. And you can never advance that way. Defense wins big games, and in this game, it stuck with them, and it got it done. And to me, and then when Todd Golden went off, Ben McCollum was right there. Now, we know Fran would have too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's very true.
But I think what Ben McCollum did was he made a point, and with Fran, sometimes that just festered with him. He couldn't control himself after that. Sometimes he did, but most of the time he didn't. Ben was able to give it right back and then gather his team back and then move on. And so I think the intensity was there, the toughness was there, the physicality was there. They didn't let, even though Falgueras just about got thrown out. But you know what? That needed to happen. Because when he got thrown to the ground, and now that punch, it looked like he was punching him at first. I'm like, oh, God, there he is. He's gone. Yeah. But instead, it was more of a grab towards the ball. So it was just a double tech. And but I think you've got to stand up to the bully. And they did.
Yeah. No, well put. And Tavian Banks did an interview at halftime with CBS and was like, tougher team's going to win. And so they were there. They were there to fight. And to your point on defense, that's what won them the Clemson game. It was not a pretty offensive game. No. It was at 18. Iowa's 16 of its last 18 points were free throws. I mean, so this was not a pretty offensive game, but they found a way to beat Clemson as well. So, and that carries into the next round for sure. Anything else on the revisiting before we kind of start flipping the page to look forward here, Scott?
No, I think that Monday morning I saw a real jolt at GameDay Men's Health from everybody coming in for their tee shots. I mean, you could tell that people were really excited, and I was there first thing Monday morning, and that's what all people wanted to talk about was they got their tee shots, but they wanted to talk Iowa men's basketball.
Yeah, we are very appreciative of our friends at GameDay Men's Health. This is the first week I'm going to miss my tee shot because it's just so. But no fear, they're going to take care of me. I'm going to get one Monday, get another one Thursday. Their turnaround was way too quick for me to because I had to fly out Tuesday morning, so couldn't do it. But anyway, the folks at GameDay Men's Health, as Scott referenced, really, for guys, they're getting up there in age. You're naturally going to lose. Most of us, a lot of us, are going to lose testosterone as we go. But that doesn't have to be that way. You can get it replaced with their testosterone replacement therapy. That's what TRT is. Safely, slowly. I haven't had any side effects. It's been great for my health, my fitness, my life. Kind of on and off the court, so to speak. Game Day Men's Health helps you feel like you're in your 20s again. I just had a really good run before I left town. I got the Drake Relays 10K coming up. A little nervous about that, but these March Madness diets aren't the best, I will say, but Game Day Men's Health keeps me in line as best that they can. Visit them for a free, no obligation consultation. I go to the office in West Des Moines. Scott goes to North Liberty. We also have an office in Ankeny, and Game Day Men's Health also available too in Naperville, Illinois. So all over the place. Appreciate our friends at Game Day. And now, Scott, can the Hawkeyes get an injection of life into the before we get to Nebraska? Do you want to do Nebraska, or should we do kind of the big picture? I mean, McCullum's been on McAfee. He's done all these shows. I've seen Wall Street Journal articles about the Hawkeyes. The Hawkeyes truly are right now, I think, the Cinderella story of the NCAA tournament. Would you agree?
Of course. I mean, that they're the lowest seed remaining, I think.
Well, Texas is 11.
Oh, never mind.
It's Texas.
Okay.
It's like
yeah. I mean,
it's like if Alabama football was the 12 seed in the playoff.
But it is different when you have somebody knocking off at 1 and you're a 9 than it is if you're an 11 and Texas getting in and winning they get a 6 and a 3 and stuff. So, anyway, this is. Iowa has put itself in a really nice position. Now, not only 1 year removed from flipping the entire roster, save one guy who ended up, who didn't even play last year. So they flipped the entire roster, and here they are in the Sweet 16 with a coach that's widely respected. And guess what? They're going to have some open spots next year. They're going to have some money to spend to get the people in here. So I think, you capitalize on this moment while you can. And they are moving themselves in a position to where the Big Ten West Jamboree is underway in Houston, Texas. I mean, 3 out of the 4 teams were in the Big Ten West. And I don't know if you saw the map. I saw Adam Rittenberg posted it on Twitter a few days ago, but it's like, here is the whole entire NCAA tournament. And it's like, you got 4 Big Ten West teams: Purdue, Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Iowa State, which is right in the middle, Michigan State, which is an honorary Big Ten West team because it really wanted to be in the Big Ten West and they just didn't let them. And then Michigan, blank them, they're Michigan. They don't deserve it. They don't get the respect that.
There it is. Aiden's got it ready.
Yeah, there you go. the epicenter of basketball. It's like, haha, Big Ten West still thrives. But
and the Cyclones. I mean, that's
exactly.
Like, they're. It has been quite a year. You think about it, for Iowa State, and now Nebraska.
And 2 of those teams are going to Chicago, Michigan and Iowa State. So, and then, the rest are scattered. So it's kind of funny that the most maligned football division is now, has 4 teams, as a quarter of the field is from the Big Ten West, going.
Well, big picture, Scott. I mean, this is just such a boon for Iowa basketball. The exposure is just the narrative. When I talk about them being the Cinderella team, like I said, he's on McAfee. John Fanta did, had the child please thing. I think we did that last week, right? On here, didn't we play that? And it was like, he went on Fanta's show today, and it's been just it's been just this opportunity for exposure, and you can see McCullum is trying to capitalize it. We have a clip from my colleague Tyler Tashman from down in Tampa after the game, which I think is just. It gets your message out there in just the perfect way of what Ben McCullum is looking for in a basketball player. Aiden's got it right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a tough dude, like, this is a good spot for you. If you're soft and you like yourself way too much, it's probably not the spot for you. We just try to recruit tough dudes that want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and hopefully people see that, win or lot and win or lose. Hopefully people see that. I think obviously wins help for the excitement, but I was proud of our guys competing one way or the other.
Sounds a lot like Iowa football, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. Absolutely it is.
But I mean, that's the thing. He's going to go into a portal season here where he's going to need a point guard and probably some other pieces. It'll be interesting to see what this roster looks like next year, but this has to help. Hey, come play for Ben McCollum, the coach everyone's talking about. What are his secrets? Go play, go be the point guard that succeeds Bennett Sturts. This is a big deal for not just this season, I think, but for potentially what happens in the coming years for Ben McCollum.
People our age many times don't realize what recruits are thinking, and recruits are they're not as shallow. First of all, one game is not going to determine whether they go somewhere or not. But at the same time, if they see positive vibes from a program, they want to capitalize on it. That's what Xavier Wampa had his official visit the day Iowa was number 3 and Penn State was number 4, and they won and they rushed the field. So was Caleb Johnson. The two pretty big, and he flipped from Cal to Iowa after that. So when you have big, exciting moments and big games, and you have a coach like that who's young, but and now what it does is it kind of allows you have your bigger pool of talent, but then you also can filter that bigger pool as well. And find somebody who fits what you want, as opposed to just, I just need somebody who can play that position. And I think that's going to be really impactful for them going forward. And yes, the one thing looking back, and I'm not going to diss Fran on this type of stuff, but Fran's style of play was very exciting to watch. It was very up and down the floor, but this is where you're Iowa, and you've got to understand where you're Iowa. You cannot in the state. There are just not enough great players, or in a 4-hour radius, Chicagoland, whatever, that you could go get players who can play equally efficiently on both ends of the floor. And so, somebody like Peyton Sanford, for instance, I think would have been awesome in this offense. I told him that last year. When I saw him after Ben got hired, and he was at the press conference, and I said, man, he would have been great. This offense, and the way they play, because I think this would have fit him so well. But they expend their energy on the offensive end of the floor. And in this situation, it's more on the defensive end of the floor. And you could find more players that fit this style of play in the 5 to 6 hour radius around Iowa City than you can the other way. Now, other places in the country where you have better talent, sleeker talent, then you can adjust accordingly. But I think in Iowa's case, playing to what Ben McCollum is, this is like Bo Ryan to me. They could score a lot of points too, and they did when they went to the championship game. But so I think this is perfect for what he can find. Just like I think all these years that Kirk Ferentz has the perfect style that Iowa can win with. You don't want to have air raid; it's not going to work. And so I think that's what he's got here.
Yeah, no question. Well, it is time we're going to spin ahead to the matchup, and it is time for our Under Pressure segment presented by a new great partner for legends and listeners. That's Mighty M. I even brought my Mighty M cup down to Houston. There you go, guys. Look at that beautiful logo from Mighty M. When you're under pressure, you need equipment built to handle it, and that is Mighty M. What are you laughing at? Based in Peosta, Iowa, from pressure washers to air compressors, generators, and compressor generator combos, Mighty M builds equipment designed to perform when the pressure's on. I'm still laughing at your Mighty T from last week. Mighty M is an industry leader in pressure washers and industrial cleaning equipment that are built for durability, reliability, and performance. Proudly employee-owned for 55 years in the great state of Iowa. To learn more about Mighty M or to find a dealer near you, visit mitm.com/Iowa. Everywhere. And this week's Under Pressure coach is Nebraska's Fred Hoiberg. Fred Hoiberg, the Nebraska coach, Scott. And the reason he is under pressure, now he's had a great season. He's delivered. He's delivered for the Huskers. Their first 2 wins in NCAA tournament history for that program. But you don't want to be the coach that lost to Iowa in the NCAA tournament, Scott.
Knowing some Nebraska fans, it's like after beating Vanderbilt, which was one of the most exciting games I can remember in a long time. What a fantastic game that was. Their hearts were full. Their big red hearts were full. But then after that situation, can you imagine them thinking, I would have been fine if Nebraska would have lost to Florida, but why? Why does it have to be Iowa? Now granted, this also means that they can beat Iowa and go to the Elite Eight because it's an easy, you would say that's an easier matchup for both teams, frankly. It's pretty even, but I think the pressure is now the best season in Nebraska history could potentially be ruined at the end by Iowa. And nobody's saying this is the best season in Iowa history. I mean, it's been a fantastic run to the tournament, but I always look at seasons and compare them a little bit more to let's look before the tournament, and we were saying that we were hoping they were getting a 10, to get out of the 1-9 matchup, but. With that being said, Fred's had a fantastic season. I mean, they're 28-6, but the pressure's on because you look at a team that's beneath you in the standings, one that's your only rival in basketball. Maybe Creighton, I guess Creighton would be too, but yeah. And then all of a sudden you're like, just the thought of losing to them. We could handle losing to anybody. God,
right.
So that's why there's pressure.
Yeah, especially the way the football's gone the last 11 years. I mean, it's just year after year after year. It's like, finish the season with a loss to the Hawks, 40-16 this last time around. Mm-hmm. I swear every year the spread is like Iowa plus 1.5, against Nebraska. And they find a way to win in football. So, yeah, no question about it. And, Scott, this is a rubber match it's a winner take all. It's like the best of 7 series, and it's game 7. For these teams, winner moves on, loser goes home. Of a team that's gotten very familiar with one another, and so I'm really fascinated to see the dynamics of this matchup. Obviously the very first matchup was in Carver. It was Peyton Sanford's return to Iowa City. A lot of hostility in there. A lot of the fans were very into it. Let's say in a lot of different ways, and it was great. And they stormed the court after Bennett Sturt scores 25, and Iowa wins 57-52 in just a slugfest. And then over in Lincoln, they probably Nebraska's way ahead, and then Cale Combs brings them back. Forces overtime. Huskers do win it in overtime, but the thing is, Freddie Hoiberg adjusted a lot of things. He posted up Peyton Sanford instead of having Bennett, who's shorter, guard him on the perimeter. That opened up some things. Sturts did not have a good game offensively. I think he had 11 points in that game. So they made some adjustments. Now, what does Ben McCollum do to counter in round 3? What does Fred Hoiberg do to counter in round 3? This is going to be they know each other, but man, they're going to be looking for every angle to figure out how am I going to beat this guy.
This will be their third meeting in the last little over 5 weeks. Yeah,
36 days. Yep.
Yeah, so they're really going to be. These teams know each other well. There's a lot of it is developed. I would say up until about this year, it was just kind of another series for Iowa among the many rivalry and many MINI rivalries that they have in the Big Ten. And then this year it's gotten ramped up. They were ranked in the top 10 when they came to Iowa City. I said it then and I say it now. I did not like the chant for Peyton Sanford. I don't like that at all. And I wish that they said something else. Because I think the world of Peyton Sanford. I think Peyton Sanford is salt of the earth, tough as nails. Really, I told him he reminded me more of Chris Street than any other player I've ever covered since then. So, I thought it was really cool that Peyton Sanford showed up for his brother's game, in Oklahoma City after he scores his first basket for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I thought that was just a tremendous gesture. That being said, the first game was a slog. I mean, Iowa won and shot 33%. That was dreadful. Bennett had 25 points and how many assists. I know he scored and assisted on more than half their points. But Nebraska shot 20% from three. It was just like, eek. But there were 7 lead changes and 10 ties. So it went back and forth. And then, as you mentioned, I think you were at the game in Lincoln, if I recall, or were you?
No, I was coming back from the women's bloodbath against UCLA.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. You were gonna go. Yeah,
Yeah.
But then they beat Michigan, and then they forgot to show up. They forgot to show up for that game. And so. They're up 10 with Nebraska was up 10 with 5 minutes to go. Iowa comes all the way back and ties it up at the end of regulation, with 9 seconds left with Cale Combs' 3. And I thought, man, that's crazy. And then, and they're still tied with, under 2 minutes left in overtime, but then Nebraska went on a 9-0 run and to end it. But I mean, what those games say, because they were so completely different. I mean, they scored 50 more points in the second game than the first game combined, is that these teams know each other well. They are comparable in enough areas statistically. This is going to come down to those margins, Chad. This is going to come down to who picks up the second foul in the first 8 to 10 minutes of the game and has to sit for a while. Who's going to execute better at certain junctures of the game? Who's going to make the bunny? Who's going to make the free throw? Who's going to force the turnover? It's those small details that really it's hard to it makes it hard to predict an outcome, because I think this is about a 1 to 2 possession game because of that. Now, granted, Sturtz or Sanford, for that matter, one of the two could go off and turn this into, a game we don't expect. But by and large, based on history here, these 2 games, we're looking at a team it's going to go possession by possession. It's going to be really tough, and it's going to create a lot of heartburn from Davenport to Ogallala.
Yeah, it's crazy. It'd be interesting to see how many Nebraska fans are here, because I imagine there's a lot of Houston fans already here, or that scooped up a lot of those tickets. But I have to imagine that there's not going to be many Iowa fans here, because Iowa was the last to arrive among this group, and Nebraska knew it was coming a day earlier. So there's probably in the secondary market, it's just insane for this game. I feel fortunate to have a press pass for this. Yeah. For this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. But here's the reason why I think Iowa can win, Scott. I think Iowa's, and I'm going to pick them to win, is because look back at those box scores. First game, Alvaro Folgueras, 7 points in 22 minutes. Second game against Nebraska, 6 points in 30 minutes against the Huskers. We're seeing a new Alvaro Folgueras in the NCAA tournament, and we've thought this all year long. We've talked about it. If he is playing at a different level, if he is that X factor for this team, and so he's the key to this game for me. Again, I mean, he scored 14 against Clemson, right? 14 against Clemson, 14 against Florida, 14 rebounds against Clemson. 14 points, 5 boards against Florida. If you can get 14 out of Folgueras again, I like your chances, because I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. So he's the X factor, Scott. Koch is hot. Tavion Banks scored 20, and we have to thank Bennett Sturtz. I mean, he was our second choice for under pressure here, Scott, from Mighty M, because Sturtz in the NCAA tournament is now, 5 of 16, 4 of 7. He's 9 for 33 from the field, Scott, in this NCAA tournament, yet Iowa's 2-0. I mean, you would never have thought that could have happened.
Yeah, he was 0-9 from 3 the other day. And if you would have told me, okay, he's going to go for 9 from 3 against Florida, I'm going to say it's going to be 81-53 or something like that. I didn't expect him to win, but I think he's going to play better. But then, what really does, I don't know about concern me, but I would say, props my antenna up with Nebraska is that this is one of the best defenses in the country. I mean, they're 6th in Ken Palm defense. They are first in Big Ten defense, field goal defense. They make shots difficult for the opposing offenses. And I think Iowa has struggled at times to score. It's going to take good and sometimes great ball movement, and they're going to have to hit shots from the field. If Fogaris can continue the way he's played, last few games, then they're going to have opportunities to do that. But if they can't and they get bogged down, this is a really tough defense to go against. They're great on, I think both teams are exceptional when it comes to steals and those types of things. But I think that their defense is so good that you really have to be careful in how you present it. But I tell you one thing though, if I had any place in this in this area that's going to be just as hopping as Houston, it's going to be Big Grove. And I think anybody would want to go there. There's going to be a special on Easy Eddie's, and they're trying to get the Iowa fans to go to Big Grove because they've been showing pictures of on social media of Nebraska fans wearing red getting ready to go to the Omaha Big Grove. So whether you're going to the one in Iowa City, Solon, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, where I was at last week, they're going to have specials on Easy Eddie, and as we know, that's a great place to go and for an Easy Eddie, and also to eat because it's a 6:30 game. So don't go there hungry. Eat some of the best foods in their area rooms, and then also in my case I'd have an Amber 1939's my jam. And also in Prairie Village in Kansas, they're opening that, and later in early April they'll have some job. They have openings for some jobs, and they want people to come and conduct some interviews. So I think this is a great opportunity to be with your fellow fans and watch one of the big moments certainly in recent Iowa history since Y2K, but also you could be there to witness it. And potentially one of the great moments if Iowa ends up pulling it out.
Well, while you're enjoying your 1939, I'll be toasting some NA beers from Athletic Brewing Company, which is America's largest dedicated non-alcoholic brewer, and we are proud to have them aboard on Legends and Listeners. So I wasn't able to check a bag because I had to turn and burn to get down here. So I wasn't able to bring my own athletic supply, but I'm going to be scouring Houston as soon as I can to try to pick some up. I'm really hoping that somebody down here has the Triple Palm. I have not seen that in Iowa, but they have it on their online store, athleticbrewing.com. It is a triple hopped IPA. I've never had it before, but I'm eyeing that one. I may have to order it on athleticbrewing.com. Every single time I pop the tab in one of their varieties, it tastes like a beer I used to drink, and it's really, really good stuff. Athletic Brewing, as they say, is fit for all times, and you can visit their products, as I mentioned, at athleticbrewing.com. Thank you for being a part of our show. I'd love to put an Athletic NA into my Mighty M cup, Scott. That'd be a perfect night. That'd be perfect. That's all I need. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Let's say, what are you going to say? Go ahead.
One thing I will say though is this game's huge, no matter what. But if Iowa does get past Nebraska, the next matchup is infinitely more difficult. And one is you could be playing your best buds from Illinois, and I think this rivalry is weird in some ways because we remember it being a fever pitch in the 80s and 90s. It was, Bruce Pearl and all that stuff. And then it kind of ebbs and flows. Like sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, we hate your guts and we hope you die. And then it's like, Orange Crush shows up, or Orange Crush tries to take tickets from kids, and then show up and then gets it taken away. Or then there's almost a fight in the handshake line and things like that. So if that turns out to be the case, and it's Illinois, Iowa for the right to go to the Final Four, I think we will see another big spike very quickly on that one. And that is a very difficult opponent for Iowa, as we saw. I think Iowa played them they had a really bad start, but otherwise they played them about as well as you could possibly play. The other one is Houston, and Houston is superb. I mean, we could talk a lot about Houston, or we could just say, they're good. And so I actually think they're the best team. I don't know what you think on this. I'll just got to go with what my thoughts are. Is if Illinois plays to the best of its abilities, it is the best team down there and might be the best team in the country. However, Illinois has been inconsistent and I dare I say somewhat soft this year. They going into the tournament, they lost 5 out of the last 9. 4 of them were in overtime. And so there's that common element of losing overtime games means that you're not tough enough in the critical moments. Now, with this team that they have, they are good enough that they could beat the daylights off you, or they could piddle around and not do anything. And so Houston's the team to beat to me in that quadrant. But I also think that what we're doing here is you're at house money stage for Iowa. Didn't expect to be here. You're here. Enjoy the moment. Soak it up. And the next game is winnable. It's a 50-50 toss-up against one of your rivals. So if that happens, soak it all in again, and then worry about the last game when you play it. But if it is Illinois-Iowa, I think it could go back to Hatfields and McCoy era real quickly.
That'd be unbelievable to get that.
Yeah.
To get that matchup. They played once this year. Illinois beat them at Carver. Illinois looked really good that day. Mm-hmm. But when you, as you say, that if they're maybe soft, I don't know. I don't cover them daily, but that was kind of losing those close overtime games was kind of a little trademark of many years of the McCaffrey era too, when you had a lot of good teams. I think of the 16 team in particular. Yeah. Now, not that Woodbury was soft, no question.
No.
I'm not saying anything about that, but I'm just saying like the ability to win those tough games. Yeah. Sometimes that is a factor, and we know. Yeah. I think we've learned to the point that this Iowa team is tough, and they will fight for 40 minutes. So whatever happens. That's why this Nebraska game is so fascinating, because it's just going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight for 40 minutes. And we know Hoiberg can bring it too. Sam Hoiberg's a little pest out there. Yeah. You got Bryce Sanford out there. You got bad blood. I mean, it's just going to be nuts. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's winnable. And that's the reward you get by beating a 1 seed, that your next game typically is less challenging. So let's see if the Hawkeyes can take advantage, Scott, and get to their first Elite 8 since 87. Wow.
I know.
That's crazy. Now we're almost at 40 years. That's 39 years. Right?
Yeah, right.
39 years.
Well, I'll say this, that if you were to trade the teams player for player, you would like that team too. I mean, these teams are kind of, they're different players and stuff, but they're, obviously Sanford played at Iowa and I've praised his brother and I will continue to, but if Sam Hoiberg was on your team, he'd be one of your favorite players too, but he's not. And that's why he isn't. And likewise, if Bennett Sturtz was wearing red, they would love him too. But I think this is what makes it fun, and this is why Mitch Sherman and I are writing this point counterpoint thing that goes in Wednesday on The Athletic, is that you get kind of broader rivalries at this stage. Maybe it's like, hey, we saw them a couple years ago in the tournament, or we saw them at the Maui, or no, this is neighbors. This is in conference. These are teams that play each other. And last year it was a play-in game to the Big Ten tournament, and Nebraska lost, and then won the crown. So, and then Fran got fired after that. So I guess Beth could have said, I had to judge where Nebraska was, but she rightly did not.
Yeah, she's a little too classy for that. Oh man, it's gonna be fun. Let's talk. Oh, by the way, you mentioned Peyton Sanford a few times. I talked to Peyton on Tuesday, did a story, it posted this morning, so go check that out at hawkcentral.com. He was great. I mean, he is great. I will always enjoy the time I had covering him. He's just a quality person. And it's really I'll give you guys one little tease of the story, all right? Where do you think he's going to be, Scott, for the game at 6:30 on Thursday?
I don't know their schedule, Oklahoma City's schedule, so I give up.
The Casey Center in Des Moines, Iowa.
Really?
Against the Iowa Wolves.
Oh, is he in the G League? No.
So, yeah, he's back in the G League. He's with the Oklahoma City Blue. He's on the 2-way contract with the NBA. He told me he's got like 8 more games to go on the 2-way deal, and then he'll be with the Thunder for the playoffs as well. So he's doing great, and they happen to be. So he's like, I have no tickets. Like, he's from Hawkeye. It was going to be like all this come to the game or whatever. And it's like, nah, they're going to all be watching Price. So he's going to have nobody. He's like, I don't even have to get tickets for anyone. Like, no one's going to be there. And then if Nebraska wins, they play in Des Moines on Saturday as well. That's just so funny. But like everyone, like no one's there to see him. But and they play at the exact same time. So anyway, read my story. He's got great quotes about the Hawks. He still loves the Hawks. He loves Cooper Koch. He watches them. I mean, he's just a great guy. And of course he's going to root for his family first, but played on the driveway with his brother. I mean, could you imagine seeing your brother go to the Final Four? That'd be pretty fun. So great guy. Anyway, check out the story. I hope you guys do. It's a cool story, and he's a cool guy.
Yeah. Well, I just remember walking in the locker room after they lost to to Illinois in the last game at the Big Ten tournament, and seeing him, and he was he's pretty tore up because he had an idea this was it, and the whole team was really upset, and he was just kind of describing all the injuries. He had to have surgery on both shoulders after the year and what he went through to play, and I'm like, that's some real guts. And how heart-wrenching is it for somebody like that? Do you have your brother, and you got to root for your family first. I don't, if it's your son or your brother, you got to go first there. But how heart-wrenching is, I mean, he played for Iowa last year. It wasn't like it was like 5 years ago and there's, you got still, nobody's there. I mean, it was last year. So I'm sure, he's hopes they both win, but, that's not going to happen. So, but it certainly is it'll be a better day it's a better day today for the men's than it certainly was for the women on Monday, Chad. That was a tough end to, a really, to me, it was an overachieving season across the board. When you look at this roster, other than Ava Hayden, I mean, they pieced together a lot of different things, and it just could not get it done on Monday.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember 2 weeks ago you said flush the UCLA loss, and I don't know if they ever did, Scott. I don't know. I think it lingered because it just didn't seem this team was as confident. Asked a couple of the players, after they lost, what'd you think? Why do you think that you guys just didn't play well in these last 3 games? Because they didn't play well against Fairleigh Dickinson either.
Yeah, right.
And as someone told me, I don't think if that was neutral court, they might have lost that game. The home crowd kind of pulled them through, home whistle a little bit in that fourth quarter. They shot terrible. Hayden was tremendous. I mean, she had 55 points in the 2 games, but really nobody else kind of showed up. Chit-Chat did a little bit, and I mean, she scored 22 against Virginia. But anyway, it was just a tough week for the women, and I agree it doesn't take away from the successful season. However, it was just a very, very, very disappointing performance all the way around. And, there's so many like what ifs. I mean, they just could not make shots. It was just crazy. I mean, Stremla was 1 of 10 from 3. She's a 36%, almost a 40% shooter. I'm sorry. The team is 36%. Stremla was 40 this year. And then Feuerbach was 1 for 7 from deep. Deal was 0 for 3, and Chit-Chat was like 3 for 9. So they were 5 for 20. And then it was just, and they couldn't make free throws. Free throws were bad. I mean, if Chit-Chat makes 3 of 4 instead of 2 of 4, they probably win that game.
Yeah, right.
So it's just, and then Hayden had the shot at the end of the first overtime. She puts it back up, but we talked to her, and she was just like, I didn't realize. I didn't have awareness at the time. I'm young, I haven't had those moments before, and that's kind of the story of this team. They've got the sophomores just like Caitlin, and Kate, and Gabby had 2 more years each, as it turned out, after they lost to Creighton. I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen. as did when it was a 2 versus 10 home loss. Mm-hmm. But I know Taylor Stremlow really well and Ava Hayden really well, and this will burn for them, and this will be a really good offseason for both of them. And I think this is one of those, and I think Jan Jensen too. I mean, she's a sophomore head coach, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this thing is going to burn. It's going to cause some reflection, and they're going to have probably a little bit smaller roster soon, I'm guessing, with a few transfers, but they're going to have to do some stuff in the portal. Mm-hmm. But what they got coming back is still really good. I mean, Chit Chat Wright, Taylor Stremlow, Journey Houston was a revelation, Ava Hayden, McKenna Velichko, Addie Deal, Layla Hayes. I mean, that's a really good nucleus to build around. And so, I mean, we're not going to talk a lot of women today because we just didn't want to depress you guys. It's all about the Sweet 16 right now, but it was a disappointing end despite going 27-7.
I think the first 5 minutes of the Fairleigh Dickinson game, it looked like, okay, they're up 18-3, and it almost, and I won't say it came too easy for them, but then it's like they took their foot back, foot off the gas, whatever the cliche would be you want to use, and all of a sudden, boom, Fairleigh Dickinson came right at them, and scored, 14 points or something, and you cut the deficit to 1, and then they were like chasing that momentum the rest of the way, and they couldn't catch up with it, and then they were forcing shots, not necessarily forcing bad shots, but it was like they were pressing too much from 3, and they were 1 of 13 against Fairleigh Dickinson. They're 5 of 29 from 3 against Virginia, and those numbers will get you beat. And 8 for 16 from the free throw line against. I mean, they had opportunities late in the regulation and in overtime, the first overtime against Virginia. I mean, when they're up 9 points with about 7 to go, it's like, okay, they should have had this thing put away. But instead, Paris Clark hits 2 threes and hits a jumper, and all of a sudden they're up. Iowa's lead's cut to 1, and then it's like, and then you're back up to 6, and then they got to cut down. And I thought Kylie played really good defense for almost the entire game, and then then Kimora Johnson proved why she's an all-ACC guard, and that was the type of player that Iowa doesn't have right now, and that needs. Lucy Olson, a different player, but effectively the same type of importance, and so it was hard to guard her into the second overtime, and I think that it's just, you could just see that, like, losing Taylor McCabe, we can look at it from the 20,000 foot view. It's not like I think she would have been an all Big Ten caliber player, but she's good enough to hit shots at key moments, and more importantly, she's good enough to change your scheme. And then instead, you're going, too double post, and you're clogging the lanes, but you've got to get teams out of that by hitting threes. And if you're not hitting threes, you're not stretching the floor, then it just clogs around it. And so it's kind of amazing that Ava Hayden was able to do what she did all season and even in the other day because of that. And, and you look at, Hannah Stolke struggled from the free throw line, but her elbow is bad enough to where she may not have played if this was January or something, so it's really unfortunate. And I also think that the freshman, Journey Houston, was kind of a revelation, but, we probably would have expected both Addie Deal and Layla Hayes to be farther along, to be and whether I think Addie is more of a confidence issue where she's pressed, after she had that great game against Ohio State and then didn't have great games on the West Coast. And then it just kind of, she was chasing herself, and I think Layla is, really needs a lot of work. I think she's probably got a pretty good starter kit, but I think she needs a lot of work. But I think overall, Chad, the best thing for them to all do, and it's going to take some time, is just flush it. And if you're in the Iowa City area this week, and everybody's kind of tight in the gut, might need to, with the Iowa Nebraska game, you might need to call Ackerman Plumbing. And it's time to discover just how the plumbing industry can be when you choose a customer-first, independently owned and operated business like Ackerman Plumbing. Ackerman Plumbing services the Iowa City area, and we're thankful for their support here on Iowa Everywhere's Legends and Listeners and Instant Iowa. Ackerman is only in the residential plumbing business, so your calls matter and would be answered in a timely manner, whether it's for a plumbing emergency, service, maintenance, equipment replacement, or upgrades. Call Ackerman. Shout out to the Ackerman team. And visit ackerman-plumbing.com for 5-star residential plumbing services in the Iowa City region.
Also want to thank the Iowa Lottery for sponsoring Legends and listeners. When you think about being a millionaire, you can be more than a millionaire. You can be a millionaire for life with the Iowa Lottery's. Woo! It makes me laugh every time. The Iowa Lottery's Millionaire for Life game. You could become a winionaire. Top prize is $1 million a year for life. Second prize is $100,000 a year for life. There are 9 different ways to win, and it is just $5 to play. Scratch, pick, pull, or play your way wherever you play the Iowa Lottery today. And go be a millionaire, just like the Iowa football players that are going to the NFL draft soon. And believe it or not, Scott, spring football is underway. This will be an abbreviated spring football conversation because it's going to be an abbreviated. It's probably the most anticipated spring football we've had in a long time. Yet, Sweet 16 is dominating it right now. I mean, there was a press conference scheduled for today with Kirk Ferentz, and it got canceled because no one was going to be there. No one wants to hear from the head football coach. So we're going to talk to him next week, Scott. But spring football is underway. We wanted to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I would have been there, but I might have been the only one, right? Or maybe
it would have been a one-on-one. It actually would have been really good.
Yeah, it would have been. No, there were a handful of people who went to the Pro Day interviews on Tuesday because Pro Day was Monday this week, and most of the players left. But we did get a chance to talk to Mark Gronowski. I talked to him for about a half an hour, and one of the things I asked him about was the quarterbacks. And, because I said, this is a race that's probably going to be going all the way into September. I mean, it's not going to be, I would be very surprised if by even early August, if we have a clear winner. But he seems very bullish on both Hank Brown and Jeremy Heklinski. He said he really likes the way, the aggressiveness of Jeremy Heklinski. And from his build and the way he plays, I think he reminds me a lot of Drew Tate. And I think, he's very aggressive and willing to sling it. That's something that probably will endear him to his teammates and stuff. But, there's a lot to talk about with football. But as we know, there is we stretch football way into January, and now it's the time to, get our money's worth out of basketball. And basketball is in its primary, moments here. So, and I'm sure Kirk Ferentz is totally fine with that. Hey, as long as keep the media away from us for a little while, and we'll just worry about football, So, I guess we'll honor that request right now.
Yeah, so we'll talk to him next Wednesday. We'll probably be both. It'll be interesting. What will our show be next week, Scott? Will we be talking about the Final Four? Is it possible? Iowa is plus 750 to make the Final Four, so long odds there, but it's a push game to get to the Elite Eight right now by the Vegas odds. I mean, it's a toss-up against the Huskers. So, and where the Final Four was in 1980 when they made it, right, Scott?
Yep, the great state of Indianapolis,
and that's where it is again this year. So, wouldn't that be something?
That would be.
Lester leads you to the Final Four in 80 and starts in 2026.
Hopefully that's not the same type of situation. At least there wouldn't be a third place game, that's for sure. You never know. Purdue could be in there too, like it was in 80.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Purdue
just play a third place game.
Yeah.
Was that the last one? Was that the last third place game?
I think they played it like one or two more years after that. Okay. But yeah, it was really close. But it is funny. I mean, you think, let's see, the NCAAs, who was all in? Louisville was in there. Purdue was in there. Iowa, and was it Duke? I think it might have been Duke, but I mean the other Final Four team in 1980. And Louisville lost. So
UCLA it was UCLA.
Okay.
Yeah.
UCLA.
And it says, according to the AI, it says UCLA's participation was later vacated due to ineligible players.
Oh, geez, those cheating people.
So the Bruins were vacated as runners-up, so Iowa actually got third.
Yeah. Purdue, sans Ronnie Lester, Purdue was able to knock off the Hawkeyes that year in the third place game. But one of the craziest things was in like the Sweet 16, they would have like a consolation Sweet 16 game, going back. And in 1970, where Iowa lost that ultimate heartbreaker to Jacksonville with Pembroke Burroughs III, had that put back at the buzzer to beat him 104-103. They played Notre Dame in the third place game, and they won 121-106.
God, I wish I could have seen that game.
Yeah, I know. They had 75 points at halftime, Chad, of that game.
No 3-point line either.
Yeah, no 3-point line. Well, Mac McCausland, who was like freshman coach on that team, he and I talked about this for a long time, and he told me, he goes, Iowa was the one team that UCLA feared that year because, Iowa still has the record and it will never be evaporated, points per game in Big Ten history at 102.9.
Jeez. It's your FM station. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, to me, the greatest game in Big Ten history took place that year, which was Rick Mount versus Iowa. And Iowa won 108-107, and Rick Mount scored 61 points. And most people think that he would have had somewhere in the neighborhood of 74 had there been a 3-point line. Wow. So, and then he was estranged for all those years at Purdue, and then came back for on January 2nd, 2016. And Purdue was up 19 points, and then Iowa came back and won at Mackey Arena. I listened to that whole game when I was driving back from Denver after driving to Denver to fly to Pasadena for the Rose Bowl.
Crazy. Hey, it's not impossible that we could have 4 Big Ten teams in the Final Four. We could have a Big Ten tournament over there. Michigan, Purdue, and then one of these 3 teams in the South.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Yeah. Scott referenced Mac McCausland, so hopefully you guys have chips and salsa time after the Hawkeyes beat Nebraska on Thursday night. This has been Chad Leistikow and Scott Dochterman for Iowa Everywhere. Talk to you soon.